Okay, so we move on to the next block 3 on apostolic means in Verbum Dei. So this is something that is very essential because it's our bread and butter, no, of our daily mission, and this will be very helpful to reflect on it, how we are using it. Actually, I was pondering these days. This is actually good for permanent formation also, even though it has to be given in a different way, perhaps for those who have done a lot of mission. But the bases are still there. So, uh, yeah, so today we'll just introduce this for us to familiarize with what the means are, what the purpose of each means is in the context of the overall mission here, or the overall apostolic project. There's a project in every city, and what is the place of every means in the intention of Jaime Bonet, in the mission. Okay, but before we go there, just a little recap of what we did yesterday. And we were talking about the spiritual exercises. Is it big enough? Do I need to expand it? Okay. Let me just pin myself. So for the video, at least it's okay. So we were talking about the spiritual exercises. We went through the different weeks, if you remember, how to formulate a retreat according to the 4 weeks. We talked about the sources of spirituality each week, the 4 exercises. We even talked about the Ignatian method, uh, uh, Teresa of Avila also, and even certain topics of the Temario, for example, of identity in each week. So the point there is not to give you already a set formula. So that formula might change according to the person who is giving it and according to the crowd that we have. So I think the one that I uploaded already in the Dropbox is just a sample, okay? So don't follow it rigidly. It's just a sample, and we can use it as a basis to keep growing in understanding spiritual exercises as a means. Okay, so that's the something we did yesterday. That was quite interesting, no? Second, this was the homework for the afternoon or the assignment. Try to use the theme set to as a structuring dynamism of an apostle. So if you see that the life and love theme set or the temario is a progressive journey of knowledge and structuring of a person. So what the theme set is supposed to give us as apostles is an interior structure for our prayer, but as well an interior structure of apostolate, how to form an apostle. So the theme set is a concrete expression of omnia verba tradenda contemplare. Okay, how to form ourselves in function of accompaniment in the future. So the more we structure ourselves according to that structure, the more our own studies, our own life, experiences, our prayer will be in function of giving. So that is one of the like the backbone, of our interior structure. Having said that, once again, the theme set is not the only thing in our mission. It's just the backbone, but it's not the flesh. So you have to put the flesh there uh, through your own experience, especially as a missionary, and your own prayer. So there might be some people who are not so in our community, who are not so keen on the temario, or maybe they don't reflect it that much. It doesn't mean that they don't have an interior structure, but it just means that they had a different emphasis. It's one of the tools, but there is some flexibility as well. So once again, like the spiritual exercises, it's not meant to be applied rigidly, because then it becomes what we call fundamentalism. No, but it's just a backbone structure where we can put in all the different contents and experiences in function of making it easier to give, making it easier to preach or to accompany someone. The theme set might change. The theme set has changed, actually. It has been modified along the way. So maybe there'll be new teachings of the church we have to add into the theme set, which I think will not be that easy, but because the theme set already includes the major teachings, no, the most important truths of faith. So once again, the theme set does not include all the truths of faith in our church. Um, as we said yesterday, there's a hierarchy of the truths of faith. So the theme set includes the highest in the hierarchy of the truths of faith, but not all the rest. So that's why we need a bit of flexibility when we try to include the realities of life that will include, the other things that are not in the highest hierarchy, like the Trinity, for example. These are one of the highest uh, in the hierarchy of the truths of faith. Okay. So the point here is, hopefully, you will have time to continue working that out as at least one time. Okay, at least once through the pentagon of the 5 steps, and you have that as a basic structure for your future studies. Okay, which again it can be modified along the way. I'm just going to try to continue recording. Okay, so we have done this recap a bit for yesterday, just to encourage you to continue that work. On the conclusion is for yesterday was this: the integration of these pedagogical keys to attain the greatest effectiveness in the announcement and propagation of the kingdom, which determines the itinerary and methodology of the formation. So we integrate all these keys, the temario about the spiritual exercises, the means, the sources of spirituality, dynamism of the word, etc. Then it will give us a certain methodology to study, and even a certain interior itinerary. Where am I, for example, in the temario? How can I progress? What is the call of the Spirit for me, etc. Okay. So, and as it says there, it's meant to accompany and form people of different races, languages, cultures, and social condition, to be also apostles of Christ. Okay. In the measure we become apostles, they too become apostles. And we're still in yesterday. I invite you to do a little bit of this reflection for your formation time. In the place where you are now, could you actually consider accompanying and forming someone to be an apostle of Christ? In your study time, okay? Just think about it. How would you choose the person? Because you have to choose. It cannot be a generalized accompaniment. How would you propose it to this person, to accompany that person? Will you go directly? Will you be indirect? Will you try to insinuate in some way or prepare the person? How would you do it? How would your concrete activities be? So in that accompaniment, what are the actual things you're going to do for that person? Are you going to meet once a month? Are you going to introduce them to the school of the word? Are you going to try to bring them to the retreat? Okay, or the disciples retreat this Easter? Is that your target? So you have to think of concrete activities. And then what are 3 elements you would form in that person? So the more you know the person, you cannot form the whole person. You have to choose certain aspects that you think are the priority, in that person. So I invite you to try to think about this as a summary of what we have been looking through. But today's reflection on apostolic means will support your answers to this reflection. Okay, so we are doing a continuous flow in our formation in these classes to go one step at a time. Okay, so yesterday we looked at the pedagogy, how to accompany a person and ourselves included, how to accompany ourselves. But what are the means that we will use to do that accompaniment? Okay, but prepare yourself. We're going to expand that, not just accompanying the person, but accompanying a community with that person. Okay, so let's go. Ready? There we go. Apostolic means in Verbum Dei. Okay, we're going to go through that now. The main objective is to help us to grasp the purpose and place of the principal means of apostolate. As we said, in function of accompanying individuals to form them as apostles, but at the same time, to integrate these means into an apostolic project in a community setting. You remember our threefold mission: proclaiming the word through prayer, preaching, and testimony of life. Second, forming apostles, the individuals whom we will meet, and we have to choose to form. And thirdly, to generate evangelizing communities, which is an apostolic project, okay, not just an individual. So, as I said, the reference is there. Can you see? I'm pointing to it. But I translated some of the parts already in this, and it's also in the Dropbox. Okay, so we can complement today's formation with some of the work in the Dropbox as well. The document. Great. So let's just go to the main stuff first. As we said, no, that these are the sub-objectives of this whole day. There are three parts. So introduction to the main means, which is School of Apostles, which is more than a means, it is a lifestyle, okay, to help ourselves personally and as a community, both dimensions, to live in an atmosphere of School of Apostles. And this is what we want to transmit and help others to live. You may be in your home, you may be in school, you may be in a workplace, you may be in a terrible place. Make that a School of Apostles for you. See that Jesus is trying to form you there in life. So it's more than a means that we, in the sense that it's not just the 1 hour or 2 hours that we have when we meet every week or every month. It's a lifestyle, of being formed by Jesus personally. Okay, so when the second part, where we talk about the traditional means of apostolate in Verbum Dei, all that is in function of training the person to live in a School of Apostles as a way of life. Okay, all of that. So the main paradigm or the main environment or bubble is very negative, no? But the main atmosphere of faith we want them to live in is the School of Apostles. All right, so we will look through number 2, the specific means, each individual means. And then the third part, which I hope I will just introduce, and you can do it as a workshop, during these days, one of these days, is to formulate an apostolic project. So after learning the means, after learning what they are for, in an apostolic project, how will you formulate one, make one, and try to learn how to use an apostolic project? Okay, it's not something to be planned once a year, and then after that we just shelve it, and we don't even refer to it anymore until the next planning session, which is 1 year later. Sometimes it happens. So how can we make use of the apostolic projects that we make? So okay, so these are the three main objectives of this day. So if I would summarize, I like to summarize or to change the way of expressing the objectives, to make them into questions. And we are here to answer these questions, okay? So once again, what are the principal means of Verbum Dei apostolate? Are you familiar with all of them? Can you just name them at the back of your hand? Is this, is this, is this, is this, is this? No, we need to gradually familiarize with what they are. Second, what is the place of each means in the itinerary of forming an apostle? So one thing is to name all of them. Second, but what is the place of the School of the Word? Is it the same as the School of Apostles? Can they be combined? What is the place of an encounter, the convivencia? Should the School of the Word be before the convivencia or after the convivencia or the encounter? When do we start the revision of life? Why do we sometimes call it sharing of faith instead of revision of life? When can a person progress from sharing of faith to revision of life? And etc. No spiritual exercises. Should disciples join spiritual exercises? Can we actually see that as part of our apostolic project? Is that the goal? Etc. No. So what is the place? We're going to answer the question as well. And the third one, what are the important elements to consider in an apostolic project? Okay, one thing is I know the means, um, and I know what they are for in the process. But another thing is, where am I going to do it? Who's going to give money to do it? You need money to have a formation. You need a place that is big enough or suitable enough. Uh, what are the human resources that I have? Do I have human resources? Am I the only one to do this? Or can I count on others? And that will make you think, how am I going to communicate to others to share this project? No, or to convince people that this works, or that we need to formulate this project together. So there are other elements that we have to think of, not just about how to accompany people, but what are those elements we need to think about that are very practical in order to formulate an apostolic project. So that is the third part that we are going to look at. No. So any questions so far? Is it okay what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, I see nods. So no complaints. We'll continue. Great. So first question, no, the first part, the school of apostles, which is the principal paradigm of mission. So I've already said that. Let's move. School of Apostles, what is it? Can I ask somebody to read, please?
School of Apostles, the culture of Verbum Dei life and mission, a lifestyle of constant preparation for mission, also an interior lifetime itinerary of each apostle, interpreting everything as an opportunity to be formed by Jesus in life, witness, preaching, and formation, a continuous of Jesus's own mission, and the context where the means find their proper purpose and meaning.
Okay, thanks, Margaret. So I think more or less I was expressing all these things. It is a culture. This is Verbum Dei culture, or rather the culture that we are trying to promote in the church. Okay, that every atmosphere, parish, group should be a place of formation by Jesus. No, so it's a lifestyle, and it's specifically a lifestyle of preparation of the word for us. That's why Jaime Bonnet used to speak about that. No, our lifestyle is a constant preparation of the word of God. When we said yesterday, all my being has to be voiced. So I'm preparing my life constantly in my activities, in what I do, but also in who I am. No, do, be, do. Those who were in the retreat, remember what I do, uh, who I am, and even what I think, all becomes a constant preparation for the mission. It's an interior life. It's not just an exterior thing. It's an interior lifestyle um, of being an apostle wherever. Why am I saying interior itinerary? Is because St. Paul himself, who is our model, his itinerary, more than going outside one place to another, was his interior conversion daily. If you see St. Paul from the beginning, St. Paul in the middle, the start of his ministry, St. Paul at the end of his ministry, very different person. There was a constant transformation in himself and maturing in the understanding of his mission. So interior life itinerary, lifetime. So it's a continuation of Jesus' own mission. So this is something very sacramental in nature. We are making a certain aspect of Jesus alive today by creating this atmosphere. Jesus continues to form apostles through us and through our communities. I mean, that's beautiful to think about, no? But that's the reality of our faith. So we continue that mission of Jesus to form. And it is the context where we understand all our means. So spiritual direction in Verbum Dei cannot be understood if it's just outside the intention of the School of Apostles. Because we train ourselves to form apostles. We don't train ourselves for other things. So sometimes people come to us, we cannot counsel them. It's okay because we are not trained for that. We are trained to help them to become apostles. If they're not there to become apostles, somehow we don't know how to do that, and it's okay. Because my spiritual direction that is done to me has been to form me as an apostle also, and that's what I've learned. So all these means inside the school of the word, the preaching also, is all seen in its context of the school of apostles. I can preach to a large audience like those very famous preachers, gather a lot of people, but maybe that is not the preaching that we are called to, or maybe it is. I don't know. It depends on the intention of the school of apostles. So everything goes into perspective when we remember that it's in order to form apostles in our communities. Okay, so this is somehow the general paradigm of the school of apostles, and it helps us to see the bigger picture, of everything we do. Okay, so we mark that as school of apostles, and that's what we are trying to live every day. Okay, so principal means of our Verbum Dei apostolate. It's not good. In Prezi, you cannot show it one by one. I wanted you to guess what it was, but anyways, so it's all there already. Never mind. Can somebody read it, please?
I can guess it if you like.
Okay, go. Please guess it.
Principal means of Verbum Dei apostolate. 1. Encounters, convivencias. 2. Spiritual exercises, silent retreat. Third is the School of Apostles. Fourth, fraternities. Fifth, the School of the Word. 6. Dynamism of the four exercises. 7. Sharing of faith, revision of life. Number 8, spiritual accompaniment. Number 9, School of Talks. 10, preparation in ministries and leadership roles. 11 is the theology. Asterisk, see definitions of the means in draft box.
Okay, thank you very much. So now what I'm going to try to do is to share something from the Dropbox. Okay, so so this is part of the formation. How to use this means. Where's my Dropbox? Okay, because I would like you to actually see and read the definitions that have been discussed and somehow not approved, but have reached a consensus. Somehow in the Verbum Day, we had all these discussions. What are all these things? And there were discussions and consensus, no, as I was saying. So in your Dropbox, there's something called the definition of principal means of formation in the Verbum Dei. So I'm going to share this so that you can look at it, right? Okay. So let's see. So you can see there. So can you just shift your own screens so that you can see the different things there? Okay. Is that okay for everyone? Can you see like two screens? One
Yes,
is the one of Betsy, and the other is, of course, um,
the iPad.
yeah, the iPad. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is to look at this document in together. Okay, so you have the summary there on the Prezi, and now we will look at this one, which is the definitions. Okay, so this part is going to be a bit of reading, and I will read some of briefly those that are, I think I've been repeating, so we don't have to go through again, okay? And the rest I'll ask you to help me to read. So the first one, identity and mission of the Verbal Day missionary family. Okay, as we heard yesterday, that is the main context of our mission, not the only, but the main context of our mission. And there in the document of identity and mission, I hope you have at least heard of it and seen it once, perhaps. There are very important numbers to explain more and more our mission. So this first one, number 24, expresses the threefold mission we have always been talking about, right? Propagating the kingdom through the prayer, testimony of life, and ministry of the word, and also forming apostles and creating evangelizing communities. In the School of Apostles as a paradigm, I will not go through that because we already saw it in the last slide. No, I just summarized it from there. But here in the next one, School of Apostles as a means. This is important. Now we are looking at it as a means. Okay. For now, we will not look at this first. Okay. I just invite you, sorry, to look first at this principal means of Verbum Dei apostolate. So I want to go through number 1 to 11 to show you a certain flow there. And if you don't agree, let me know. Okay, it's very important because this is my flow, and somebody else, another missionary might tell you another flow, because not just because of personality, but because of the context. In a different context, the flow could be different. But this is like a standard general way of looking at it. And if you agree, okay, just to review. Begin with the goal in mind, no? As Jaime Bonnet always says. No? Whenever we see somebody, we want to bring them to an encounter with Jesus. Am I right? So that normal place of an easy encounter is the convivencia. Then after that, when the person is mature in their encounter with Jesus, we want them to lead them to another major means, which is the spiritual exercises. So not just to enjoy because of the community, but to learn to deepen their own personal relationship with Jesus. So that's spiritual exercises. The third, once the person has an option for Jesus, personal option for Jesus, especially through the spiritual exercises, could be before, could be after, we invite them to the school of apostles. So if you notice, there's a certain flow, an intention in the apostle who knows where he wants to bring the people and what are the means that he or she wants to employ to bring the person closer to Christ and to the mission. Okay, those first three are like the major means that we want to bring the person through. The rest are the smaller means, so-called, for accompaniment. So the first three are like, boom, no, this is our moments of encounter. But after that, we need to learn how to accompany them. What are the means? One of the terms that are used in Spanish in different places are fraternities. So it's not yet a school of the word. A fraternity is maybe a workshop, a place to learn how to play the guitar, to play games, sports, food, how to cook, cultural exchange. So excuses to bring people together. No, so that's somehow a fraternity, where people like to gather and we gather and we make the most of that. After that is the school of the word, which is a more specific transmission of our spirituality, prayer, preaching, and testimony of life. So school of the word, maybe I'll just summarize for you that long list there. The school of the word is a time, there are two uses. One is just to deepen the word, of course. But second is you're trying to form them as disciples. So there can be an intention behind the school of the word that is more missionary in the sense of forming disciples or apostles. But there's also a kind of school of the word that is an introduction to prayer. So you need to know which one is your intention. And when you mix people there, it's important to know where you're going, because your people could become frustrated if they're there to be formed and you're just telling them the basics, or they could be lost when they're just there to taste the basics and you are trying to make them preach. So yes, they just came and you want to make them preach already. So there's these two main objectives that we can ponder about the school of the word. Where are we tended more to form a disciple, or just to introduce people? So basically that. The next one, the dynamism of the 4 exercises. Of course, this is already a certain step of discipleship. A person who's committed to grow in discipleship, we invite them to live out the 4 exercises. A life of prayer, means of fraternal love, to exercise the fraternal love, the challenges and crosses, and also an apostolic dynamism in their life. So with that, as we know, we need to accompany them through the most basic means called the revision of life. Or, as we said, the sharing of faith is more basic for a person who's just starting, right? So for a person who's just starting, Of course, we don't ask them to do revision of life, not to correct each other. And then if they don't know how to do it, it might be disastrous, even as missionaries. So that's why we always start with sharing of faith. Our main point is to transmit faith and encourage each other. And then after that, when we are more mature, we can help to give contributions and suggestions and even challenges, to each other to grow in that faith. So that's why we have these two terms, sharing of faith and then revision of life. And of course, number 8, other forms of spiritual accompaniment, spiritual direction, an individual one-to-one. No? So this one is a means that is more specific, and probably we need another formation to talk more about that. Okay. And of course, the other means will be a bit more mature already. The person already has an option to be a disciple. They want to preach. They want to participate in a mission. Then we have the school of talks. Okay, like for example, in Pansona, for example, the main point of the school of apostles is to teach them how to preach. So it's like a first step, perhaps, and then to help them to grow first in the dynamism of being a herald, a herald and apostle to preach the word of God. So the school of talks is something that I feel we need to regain a lot more in Verbum Dei. Somehow we have become very afraid of this means because sometimes it's a bit exaggerated. Instead of building up the talk, it creates a trauma in the person. So if we can relearn how to use the school of the talks, it will be a great means of forming ourselves and others. And number 10, okay, last two. Preparation in ministries and leadership roles. This is very important. We are not only forming people to preach, but we are forming ministries. Maybe the person is called to preach, maybe not, but we need leaders as well. We need, in the Verbum Dei family, people who will take up responsibilities. Maybe there are different ministries, could be liturgy, could be music, it could be preaching, even it's a ministry. So when we take our attention wider or expand our attention of our mission beyond the individual person, and we think of a community, then we will need ministries. But we need to form them. We cannot just entrust them. Okay, you take care of this, you take care of that. Sometimes we do. But we need to, once again, it's do be do. Entrust them, but also give them formation. Don't just form them without also giving them responsibilities, because they could be also perpetual receivers. Oh, I need more formation. I need more formation. And after 5 years, they still need more formation without responsibility. So this double dynamic, of asking them to do and asking them to be formed at the same time in ministries and also in leadership. And here is where the apostolic eyes come in, to notice and to choose and to offer. Of course, we don't force anybody, but we offer. And of course, the last one is theology. Why not? Sometimes we don't consider that disciples should be taught theology. And really, in my own experience, there are many mature disciples in community who will not be able to assume certain roles of responsibility because they don't have the theological basis. Because mission needs theological foundations, not just how to do things. So to really assume responsibility, they also need theology. So how do we do that? So anyway, that's this. So just to recap, this is a long process here, just for us to see where we are going with people. The starting point, the initial, the means of accompaniments, from 4 to 9, and then 10 and 11, something more specific in terms of the Verbum Dei family, building up the community itself. So, okay, I'm going to stop here for a while and just let you breathe. And okay, let's see. So are there any questions on this? Is it quite clear on what we are talking about? Any comments, questions, or even disagreements? It's okay. We are here to learn, myself included.
I have a question.
Yeah, go.
You just now you talk about the school of the word and these two objectives, depending on the word, and then to introduce them as disciples. And we need to know what are these two objectives and how to apply it proper, correct? But what if in one school of the word, there are different types of people? Some who just seek the basic, to learn to deepen on the word, and some has potential or like the desire to also want to be formed as disciples. How then is it? Yeah.
You have an answer yourself?
For me, I think from experience, I see those who really want to be formed as disciples, then you do it on a more individual basis.
Mhm.
Yeah, but in general, in the school of the word, if majority of them just want the basics, then we go for the basics.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a sharing session, so anybody can contribute. Does anyone have any comments on that? Could be to affirm that also, or if you have another idea. Are good? All good? No? Okay. Yeah. I think that's a very gradual and very good way of accompanying. No. So of course, as you start to notice, and then you approach them one by one. No, something like that. But I guess along the way, you might want to form a group so that they will also feel that they have an identity in this accompaniment. That is because sometimes what I feel is if it's individual, it normally has to start individual. Okay, they feel it's for themselves. I want to grow for myself. But when you start a communitarian dynamic, and you have to be very careful with this also, then they will feel that, oh, it's not just for me. It's not just about me, and there's something bigger here. So depending on where the person is, you might want or you might not want to do a group dynamic. Okay, but at some point, perhaps you would have to take the risk, so that the person also needs to grow somehow. But then again, you can continue putting the same person in the same school of the word, because as Jaime would say, they still have to pray. They don't just need to be formed, but they still need to have the school of the word to pray with others, and because something special about our prayers Verbum Dei is we pray together. I don't know if I think in all our experience, it's very different to pray together as a community, a common topic, a common process of the community, or to just pray individually about me. So it's always nice also for them to keep joining the school of the word, and to feel a communitarian dynamic there. At least that's what I see. So I think what you're saying is very, the intuition there is seems for me to be very good. No, to gradually help the person to grow, but not losing the basics of their prayer and their communitarian dynamic. Any other comments? Thank you for that. Very interesting.
Mike, I have some questions.
Go.
Well, about the School of Apostle, I'm just realizing now more and more that it is a principal paradigm of the mission. No, somehow everything we do is a School of Apostle, making us, forming us as an apostle. It's like giving the bigger picture, that big circle. But inside of that, we also have this School of Apostle means, which specific the one that we teach at Mario. Perhaps, I don't know, in other countries, if they do the same. I just have like curiosity. Why don't we just change the terminology? Because somehow it's confusing. We have everything we do is inside this nutshell of a school of apostle, but inside of
Yeah.
that, another school of apostle means. So
Yeah.
that's the first of my three questions.
Okay. Wow. Let's try to answer the first one. We try to see, okay, because actually it's break time. but I'll answer the first one at least, and then maybe after the break we could also continue. Um, one of the main problems is our founder. He has a very sacramental perspective of things. So sacrament means a visible expression of an invisible reality, right? I mean, this is catechism lah. So the school of apostles, the means of the school of apostles is somehow a visible expression of something that is bigger, a reality that is bigger. And so somehow that captures his way of looking at things. No, this is a means, but look, this is supposed to be your whole life. So whenever you join the means, your consciousness, you become more aware that this is supposed to be my lifestyle, no? And not just something separated. So if we call it another name, maybe that kind of separation could come in. But it's really the logic of sacraments, if you think about it. Why we have this complication of our way of definitions. I don't know, that is one way of answering it. It's true that it could have other names. Before we used to call it School of the Word. This term School of Apostles only came later in the late 80s or 90s. Jaime used to call School of the Word what he meant was School of Apostles, because he was very clear that an apostle has to preach the word. So it's also good to know the history, so we know the emphasis. An apostle is not just a leader, but there's a specific quality of leadership that is based on the word of God, making my life word of God, and that's where my leadership comes from. So once again, another insertion of complication. But in order to qualify, so this is our challenge when we assimilate our means, is to see all these nuances that Jaime integrated, and our challenge is to take it apart, so to study the different elements. But for him, it's just one thing, and that has been our challenge. So thank you. It's a good question. I think that's worth clarifying. Really. Are your other questions related?
No, it's other means, the other questions. But it seems maybe there's no.
No, is it okay, everybody? We just extend a little, and then we have the break,
Mike,
so that we finish this part.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been for a long time also. I've been contemplating on this. What would be the good strategy for a person who has been with the community for quite some time, maybe 5 to 10 years, and yet seems that there's just a little, maybe little growth, because I would understand that they would not preach. They don't want to preach. Okay, you could do it in other ways. But then also I saw that in their other aspects of life, it seems that what we are preaching doesn't really sink in. So what will be the good strategy for that? Knowing also that we could not just abandon the person, we have to help him. But in a way also thinking of how can we help him, or maybe I would say that maybe it depends on the person also. We could not force him anymore. We could not force him or her anymore.
Yeah. No, thank you. Also, that's a very, I think, daily question for our apostolate. I would look at it in two angles. The first is it aptitude or attitude? Is it because the person doesn't have the attitude to grow, or is it because he or she has no aptitude to grow in that way? So it's like, is it because of lack of nurturing, or is it because the person just cannot do it? And I think we have both kinds of extremes. No, maybe it's both, but they're both kind of extremes. So I think the first point is to identify whether it's really the person doesn't want or just cannot. And if he really cannot or she cannot, as you said, no, there's no point forcing, but still part of the family Verbum Dei. But the second angle I'll look at it is what area is blocking the person. So in order to know what is the aptitude or attitude, perhaps we can distribute it into three categories. of, mind, heart, and strength. Mind, heart, and strength. No, mind, uh, in the sense, no, do they know what it's all about actually? So maybe it's a lack of intellectual formation. So if you don't tell me what is the process of Verbum Dei, I will not know how to grow. No, so maybe it's just lack of information, and sometimes that is our fault. No, we have not accompanied well, giving the intellectual information that they need to grow. So that's for mind. No, heart. Or let me go to will first. Will. So the person maybe knows, but doesn't know what are the tools. So I know that I should be an apostle. I know I should preach, but nobody has taught me how. So the will is maybe the training. What are the tools to help the person to train their will to do it? So I would like to pray better, but nobody told me how to improve my prayer every day in my daily prayer. No, so maybe it's the will that is a challenge. Um, so it's to give tools, no, in that aspect of the challenge that they have. It could be a challenge in prayer. It could be a challenge in preaching. It could be a challenge in their human daily life also. No, that the three pillars. Uh, so the will, and the third is the most difficult, is the heart. The heart means lack of motivation. Maybe I know what it is. Maybe I even know how to do it, but I don't know why I should do it. I'm not motivated. And here's where we need to give them the why. The why, not just our own explanation, but the why of Jesus. That's why the encounter, I think for me, here comes the encounter with Jesus. I mean, look at ourselves, no? The only one who can convince us why is is God, no? In prayer. So that could be the problem, but not always. Sometimes we only think that is the why. What does a person need? Put them to prayer. Make them pray. Pray more. And then, but maybe it's not more prayer. They just need to know the tools. No, or maybe they just don't know what it's all about, and they keep praying and praying, and they don't know how to grow. So why am I saying this? No, it's like to really identify what are the areas that they need help. No, is it the mind or the heart or the will, the strength? No, so we are very focused on the heart, and that is good also, the motivation, and we give prayer. But for the will, maybe what we need is tools. No, tools of ministry of the word, tools of mission, tools of prayer, or maybe it's the intellect, which is formation on the intellectual dimension as well. So yeah, at least this is my own approach, no, of how to see whether we can push the person, or what is the best way to push the person, or whether we should just leave the person alone. No, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's a good point.
yeah, thank you. So yeah, but this is a challenge now. No, that's why we, as I was saying earlier, I mean for all of us, no, we need to learn how to choose people in a good way. No, so choosing is not prejudice, but choosing is just helping a person to be where is best for them, right, in that sense.
And sorry, and also to look at the point of, because you are investing on this person,
Mhm.
and and over time, if the investment is not getting a profit, so might as well, sometimes you think, leave it and concentrate on the other persons, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like the fig, it's like the fig tree that Jesus saw. Afterwards he
Yeah.
curse it later.
Oh,
Because we
Yeah.
have to face it that our time also is so, it's we don't have much time, and it's so
mhm.
short that we really have to invest in the proper things and proper people.
Yeah. So that's not as true, and we shouldn't feel scruples about it. But yeah. Sorry, Pris, you want to say something?
I have a question. I think it's very real with what I'm experiencing at the moment. Like, um, so for example, no, we ask the disciples to give a testimony. That's what we're doing for our School of the Word now. And many times, I'm the one reading through their testimony, and for me, it's like you can put something more, you can go deeper. But then also because I think the people are very sensitive, so I sometimes have to contrast with the other missionaries. How to improve this testimony, But then sometimes the missionary will tell me, there's all this person can give, or or like, what more do you want? But for me, inside of me, it's like, no, no, this is just like I ask you one question and you reply me. For me lah, maybe I'm a bit more biased. Like, I don't sense prayer in this testimony, but the missionaries will tell me, what more do you want? There's all this person can give. But for me, then a part of me is like, huh, really? You don't want to push a bit more. So for me, it's, I don't know whether it's a inculturation issue. I haven't, you know. But for me, it's like, come on. Sorry, I get very agitated. Yes. So can you give me an answer
Oh no.
or enlighten me at least?
I have to be careful. Maybe I know this missionary song. So no, just kidding.
No, but I'm not
Yeah,
saying names.
no, I'm just joking. Yeah, it's a challenging question. I think we it's very hard to guess what's going on in the mind of another missionary. But at least two things. No, one is we know what's going on in our own minds, and I think it's good to evaluate it and to see what is the best way to maybe to take out the gold. I mean, to really extract the gold from there, the very valid points, and to see how to communicate it uh, and implement it. No, sometimes they're saying also things will not get approved until it's seen. So until you try it out, people will say no, it cannot be done. But once you prove that it can be done, you say, oh, I didn't know we could do that. No, sometimes it happens like that. So it's a little bit of mix of trying to communicate what you see in a way that the other person can understand. But at the same time, go ahead, try it out and see whether it bears fruit. Because if it bears fruit, then it proves this point by itself. I know obedience comes in, etc. So that's where you need to measure, no, how to communicate, as I said, and to try it. The second thing is, yeah, we don't know what's going on in the mind of the other missionary. It could be because they've never seen it also. So, as we say, one cannot give what they don't have. So maybe you have learned something different, or you have seen something from your own personal, cultural, or perspective of what you've learned. So, of course, the person cannot agree if they have not seen it either. So that's why this part of communicating, etc. Another reason could be that they know the person very well. So, or as you said, it's cultural issues. So it's good to clarify what the person actually sees. Maybe they see another dimension that we don't see, things like that. So yeah, challenge of communitarian mission.
Disobey and do it. No, joke.
This don't I shouldn't record this, no, but some people say it's better to ask
Take word.
forgiveness than to ask permission. I'm going to get hammered for this. No, I mean, my point is you find the balance, no? Just find the balance of innovation but remember always, we are always working as a team. So everybody has their right to contribute. We are not like only do what the superior says. No, that is not our model of mission, no, in Verbum Dei. But trying to constantly communicate, discern, and find the best way. So don't stop. No, if you have initiatives or ideas, keep presenting it, but with a lot of patience and yeah.
My hair is falling off.
Yeah.
More hair.
Yeah. So, okay, shall we just take a break and then so that we can, if you have more questions, we can bring it to the after the break. If not, then we just move on with the other slides. Okay. So let's have a 5-minute break and then we see each other in a while. Okay.